Hi, welcome to Healing Humanity. My name is Dana, and I want to talk to you today about being malnourished. Malnourished in the body, and malnourished in the mind, and malnourished in the spirit. It- what I learned through my journey when I had cancer, not once but twice, quite a long time ago, probably like 7 years ago or so. I learned a lot about what we take into our bodies. Now, I'm not perfect with it at all. I still have times where I'm struggling, and we all do, right? But the thing is that the malnourishment that I'm talking about goes even deeper than just what we put in our mouths. It's it's what we do with our time. It's um, how we use our time. So like, and what we put into our bodies, and that's a big thing. See, what I learned was how important it was to control our urges. And, we're all just inherently malnourished. We use, you know, we use coffee or tea to wake up. We've got pills to concentrate, medication to concentrate. There's even gum now to concentrate. Sugar to cope in order to make us feel better. There's, we're just like chemically altered from morning until night. And that is not how we can better our lives. That's not how we can improve our mind. It's not how we can connect with God. And, you know, many people, they use weed to relax, they use porn to escape, or even just various sexual partners to escape, um, melatonin to sleep. You know, a lot of people don't know what it's like to actually live naturally, to live without caffeine in your body, to live without nicotine or some sort of chemical. Even if it's a natural chemical like pot, it still affects your mind, your body, and your spirit. And it's not a positive effect that it has on you. Although you may think it is not. Um, we don't know. Like I said, we don't know what it's like to live naturally. So we augment our lives and just by ingesting and constantly moving, constantly ingesting chemicals and things like that, and we don't really remember what it's like to be normal, to be human, to be a spiritual being. And that's I think that's probably the biggest thing that I learned in my past is um is that through fasting, through changing my diet considerably, eating no meat whatsoever, um, I was able to connect spiritually differently than I was before. And also through fasting, I had I've said this before a couple different times. It was a long time ago, so I'll mention it again. I had arthritis in one of my toes, and it was so unbelievably painful. I used to love wearing high heels everywhere I went. Like, I used to bartend in high heels. So I used to love them, and I'd wear them a lot. But it got to the point where my toe was so bad that I could only wear them um, like one day, if that, and then I had to stop wearing them. But after I fasted, and I did I think at that time it was like a 7 day fast. And I'm talking about a water fast. I'm not talking about anything else. You can try different things. You can try, juice fasting to start or whatever. But to reduce the caloric intake in your body is tremendous. To fast reduces it took away that problem that I had. I had had large, like, pores in my skin, and that went away. Um, it changed everything in my body. And when you can reach past the 3rd day mark for fasting, you reach something called autophagy, which you can do by intermittent fasting, but not it's not as impactful as long-term fasting. So when you reach autophagy, that is the time where you start to all of the old cells, like the sick cells that are in your body, start to die off. And your body goes, "Oh, wait a minute, there's something wrong here. We're not eating." So the the army of healthy cells start to attack the old bad cells, the sick cells, and it wipes them out. Maybe not completely, depends on how long you do it and depends on what you've got going on, obviously. Um, but it does work. You can even regrow brain cells, which for me was just phenomenal. I thought that was really interesting. Um, but but even more so, like um, I read several passages in the Bible where they talk about eating just vegetables. I just read it recently. Let me look it up. Okay, I found it. I was reading the book of Daniel, and he was part of a group of people that were brought into the king's chambers, and they were given king's food. They were supposed to be prophets and sages for the king. And so the king wanted to treat them well, so he would just embellish them with good foods and rich foods, all whatever the king's court was eating, right? But what they said, Daniel then said to the guard, whom the chief official had appointed over Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, please test your servants for 10 days. They were servants to the king. Give us nothing but vegetables to eat and water to drink. Then compare our appearance with that of the young men who eat the royal food, and treat your servants in accordance with what you see. So they did test them for 10 days, and they found at the end of the 10 days, they looked healthier and better nourished than any of the young men who ate the royal food. So the guard took away their choice foods and wine that they were to drink and gave them vegetables instead. And that's what I've been saying for years. Like eating a solely a vegetable-based diet, it can open up a world of good in your life. It can fix your appearance. It can help alleviate swelling and whatever you've got going on, ailments in your body. And it can definitely help with your energy levels. I know that seems strange. Fasting and eating vegetables doesn't seem like it would help with your energy, but it does. If you can go past the second day, which is the worst day, I would say worse, but it's a little uncomfortable. It's a little, some people, depending on what your diet has been, you could get a little sick. They call it fasting sickness or something like that. You start to feel like you have a cold, and then the following day you're perfectly fine again, and you have more energy than you ever did. It's an amazing process. And then if you can do that and then incorporate a diet after that of purely vegetables, you will find like an amazing difference in your body. You'll have more energy. You will definitely have a healthier body, mind, and as an after of all of that, you are able to connect at a soul level with God, and that's the most amazing part. That's something that you can't get by using caffeine and using pot and escaping through pornography and sex and using sugar to just make yourself feel better. All of these things are coping mechanisms that we all have learned to use, and some things that we use that we don't even realize are coping mechanism, but we're still using them. You know, um, I just really feel so strongly about this. I really believe that this is the way to go because, like I said, if you read the book of Daniel, you'll find that it's actually in there a few different times where he talks about fasting. He talks about eating just vegetables in order to connect spiritually. I'm gonna see if I can find the other one, but I thought it was pretty cool that, you know, that they actually said that. Yeah, Daniel 10, it says, in the third year of Cyrus, king of Persia, a revelation was given to Daniel, who was called Belteshazzar, something like that, who was, its message was true, and it concerned a great war. The understanding of the message came to him in a vision. At that time, I, Daniel, mourned for 3 weeks. I ate no choice food, no meat or wine touched my lips, and I used no lotions at all until the 3 weeks were over. And I just, that was really encouraging to me, because everything that I learned, everything that I thought I knew, it was confirmed through reading that passage, and that was an encouragement to me, and it should be to you too, because it's doable. It's doable for all of us. And you can say, well, I have this problem or I have that problem and I can't fast. Well, you can. You just have to, maybe talk to your doctor about it, talk to a nutritionist, but you can do it. You know, it actually heals your body. So find someone who believes in it. Find someone who has done it before. I have videos on my website. You're more than welcome to, tap into those, where I explain how to do that, and I explain, what you need to do that. And but if you're going to try and you want guidance from people, you can either connect with me or you connect with, a medical professional that actually believes in the value of it, because there are other medical professionals out there, and there are many more that don't believe in it, that won't talk to you about it, and they can't talk to you about it because it's against their commitments to the insurance companies. The insurance companies are there to make money, so the doctors are there to make money. If they tell you about fasting and they tell you about the power of just eating vegetables, there goes their paychecks, right? So anyway, I just would encourage you to start thinking about what you're absorbing into your body, what you're using on your body, how you're showing up for yourself. Caffeine, what I found was one of the hardest things I ever had to quit. And I had used to smoke cigarettes, but caffeine was the hardest thing for me to quit. And when I finally did, it was probably about 4 years ago now, the pain that permeated my entire head started at the very base of my skull, and it was so powerful and so painful. And I learned through that the caffeine tends to collect at the back of your skull, and you cannot be healthy if that's what's going on within your body, and that includes coffee. Coffee has caffeine. So I would just highly encourage you to consider, using fasting, eating your vegetables, and just trying not to connect chemically. And I say chemically, it could be anything. It could be, like I said, pornography, weed, whatever you're counting on to continue in your daily affairs, that needs to go. Just plain and simple. It's got to go. I quit caffeine. I stopped smoking cigarettes. I don't use sleeping pills or anything like that. On occasion I'll use valerian root, which is an all-natural herb, much like melatonin, but that's very rare when I use that. And I just really encourage you to try to look at your life, look at your body, and ask yourself, what things do I use on a daily basis that carry me through the day, and how can I get rid of them? How can I just get rid of them? Not be counting on them anymore. Not be a slave to something outside of myself.